If you haven't heard the news in one of our episodes yet, we've reopened our Ghosts of Harrenhal merchandise store to kick off the summer. So for the time being, you can visit ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com to stock up and look cool in the summer months. Or, in the southern hemisphere, it's a great time to buy a hoodie or sweatshirt. Regardless, don't delay or you could miss your chance. The link is in every episode's show notes.
Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 298 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today, we'll be discussing chapter 26 of A Dance with Dragons, which is The Wayward Bride.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. Unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Well, then we are going to spoil things for you. But regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge a little pedantry and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly? Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I'm doing well. We had a really nice vacation. We were at a beautiful island in South Carolina, and
I thought you were further afield than that. For some reason, I had you in Florida.
No, just a few hour drive away. So that was part of the appeal in the first place.
Yeah.
But the island was beautiful. The resort we stayed at was beautiful. The resort was almost a little too fancy. It was the first time we've ever been in the 5-star resort. And
wow.
I for about the whole first day, I had a bit of imposter syndrome. And
that's not a syndrome. You were an imposter.
I was an imposter. I definitely felt like it. Everybody was dressed so fancy, and you couldn't go anywhere without someone doing something for you. Like you couldn't open a door without someone, opening it. Couldn't go down to the beach without someone putting chairs and cushions and umbrellas. Anyway, but it was great. It was very relaxing. We had a lot of fun. And it was nice to have the four of us together. We don't get together all that often, especially on vacation. So that was a blast. But my story for you from
good. Got a
this
story.
Vacation is so we kind of settled into this routine where Stacy and I were obviously up and moving before the kids were even remotely stirring. Yes.
Yeah.
So Stacy and I would drive over to this little breakfast sandwich shop and have our breakfast, and then we'd get food to go and bring it back to the kids, and then they'd eat theirs in the room. And so Monday morning, I knew what I was doing. I put on my Pittsburgh Penguins shirt, which is the hockey team in Pittsburgh.
You're really 5-starring it up, I see.
I was leaving the resort, so I was okay at that. But I was fishing for yinzers. Yinzers are people from southwestern Pennsylvania. So, there's nothing that southwestern Pennsylvanians love more than to talk about Pittsburgh sports or the city of Pittsburgh when they're they're away from home. So
acutely aware.
Yeah, so I thought, let's see who I can wrangle up today, what yinzers I can find. So, we order our food, we're waiting, the kids' food, we're waiting for it. And it's a very small place, and it's early in the morning. So there's only one other guy who had ordered waiting for his food, and there was a mom and 2 kids in there. And I'm just standing there. I was probably staring at the floor or at the menu or something, minding my own business. And the guy next to me, I caught him with my yinzer hook. And he says, "Penn shirt, are you from Pittsburgh?" And I look over, and it's Dan Marino staring me in the face. Dan Marino.
Dan Marino, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
First ballot Hall of Famer. Football legend, Pittsburgh sports legend.
You bump into sports legends. This isn't your first one of these.
Well, this is the biggest legend that I've personally had to have an interaction with. So, for those who don't know, yes, like we're saying, he's arguably the most talented quarterback in NFL history. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer for the Miami Dolphins. He's from Pittsburgh, went to the University of Pittsburgh, was a legend there.
I didn't know that. I just knew him as a Dolphin, so I didn't know he had a connection.
for a huge Pitt fan and native Pittsburgher, it was about as big. Is about, aside from maybe Mario Lemieux, is about as big a celebrity as could be talking to you. So
right.
I freeze for a second. I think I have to have human to human normal conversation with Dan Marino. Just don't say anything embarrassing. Don't do anything stupid.
And you struggle when you're talking to me, and I'm not famous. You know?
So he and I just start chatting about Pittsburgh and about the sports scene and stuff. And then Stacy, who's standing next to me, says, "Oh, hey, our son goes to Carnegie Mellon." And he goes, "Oh, my wife went to Carnegie Mellon back in the day, and my high school was right next door," as if I didn't know where Dan Marino went to high school. But Stacy doesn't even know what's happening yet. So she goes, "Oh, are you down here on vacation? Are you having a good time?" And he's like, "Well, no, I played football in Florida, and now we have a house here." And I turn to her because I realize what's happening, and I say, "This is Dan Marino." And she says nothing. She reacts in no way. So Dan and I start talking about, there's a very famous golf course on the island, and we're talking about the golf course, and I'm talking about how beautiful the homes are on the island. And like several minutes later, Stacy goes, "Oh my God, you're Dan Marino."
It just took a little bit of time to compute with.
And he goes, he puts his hand up and goes, "Yes, really, it's no big deal." And she's got the word, the sound "k" out. And I guess it was nearly 3 decades of us being together that she could sense my body language saying, "Don't you dare ask him what I think you're about to ask him." Because I knew she was about to ask him for a picture.
For a picture, yeah.
Yes, and I was like, don't embarrass me by asking Dan Marino for a picture. He's just a guy wearing a hoodie and flip-flops. He was not fancied up.
I gotta say, 10 out of 10 to you, because you've just like talked to him like, and he keeps giving you like breadcrumbs, and you're not picking up any of them. You're like, yeah, I mean, like, I'll just keep talking to you.
Right, yeah.
All these bits and pieces I already know, but I'm going to pretend that this is just a conversation between two guys.
Just a guy. Just 2 guys from Pittsburgh chatting it up. So we chat for a few more minutes.
So wait, how did you stop the k?
She stopped it. She just went,
she sensed your reaction to it.
Yes, she had to have been like, she said later, she was like, "I was going to ask him for a picture, but I knew you would kill me if I did that." And I was like, "I thought you were about to ask him for a picture, and I thought, please do not embarrass me by asking him for a selfie right now in a breakfast shop at 7:30 in the morning." So we will chat for a few more minutes, and then our food comes and we leave and say bye. It was nice meeting you. And on the way out, we're walking to the car, and I said, "I was so nervous, my whole insides are shaking." And she goes, "That's what tipped me off. You said he was Dan Marino." But I was looking at him, and I was like, why did he say this was Dan Marino? And then I saw your cheek was quivering, and I thought, he's nervous. Wait, he said that's Dan Marino. That's Dan Marino!
I love the you just telling her was not enough.
Right.
That didn't get through.
No, it took my cheek quivering for her to be like, "Oh, he's Dan Marino." So, so like over the next couple days, she would see me kind of talking and gesturing to myself, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm talking to Dan. I'm having the conversations of things I wish I had said, or now think that I could have said, wanted to have said."
You're taking selfies with you and nobody.
Yes. One thing I wish I would have done was been like, wait, I feel like I need to clear up some confusion here. Dan, this is my wife, Stacy.
Yeah.
Stacy, this is Dan Marino. And, just clear
As
the
I've said
air
once
right
before,
away.
This is Dan Marino.
Right. So that was...
That's a great story. So, was he nice?
He was and he approached me. That's the thing. I didn't turn my head and say, "Hey, you're Dan Marino."
Yeah.
He started talking to me, and he was really nice. And he was really cool about the whole, hey, you're Dan Marino thing, He wasn't like, that's right,
That's like, so. I'm sure I've told the story about meeting the Scottish footballer before. He came up to the bar when me and a sales lady were sitting at a bar in Germany, and a very famous Scottish footballer came up, and he said, "Oh, is this seat taken?" But the bar was completely empty. There were just the two of us. You could have sat anywhere. And I said, "No, sure, sit down." And then I said his name. I was like, "Ali McCoist," because it was Ali McCoist. I was like so excited.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I kept going back to that shop every morning at the same time, but he was never. It might have been intentional that he was never there again.
Yeah,
he was never there.
He's
again.
He's like, that couple were nice. They kept it together for 8 minutes. I am not going back.
Right. Something's weird about those two.
His face was twitching. She was ready.
I kept wondering to myself, if there was such thing as a multiverse, what could I have said in my time to have gotten myself invited to a round of golf or something with Dan Marino?
That would have been awesome. Yeah.
Well, how could I have worked that to get that kind of result? But unfortunately, in this universe, I just had a pleasant conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you could have. I might have tried something along. I mean, I wouldn't have cared myself. But if I was you, I might have tried. Oh, Stacey was just telling me earlier that she didn't mind if I went for a round of golf this afternoon.
Give him the raised
at that
eyebrow.
Beautiful course you were just talking about, which is members only.
Maybe that would have done it.
Well, you've stolen all the time with your excellent stories.
My apologies.
Save my stories for next time, and let's get down to business. How did we leave the Wayward Bride? Now, attentive listeners last week would have noticed that Simon forgot who the Wayward Bride was.
Right.
Yes,
I noticed.
I thought it might be Jane Poole, but it was, in fact, Asha Greyjoy. So, Asha Greyjoy, the other bride in the north who was forced into a marriage she doesn't want, the last we had a POV of Asha was in chapter 11 of A Feast for Crows, which is a whole 60 chapters ago. Perhaps a new record?
Wow, that might be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Back then, she had left Deepwood Motte with the Glover family as captives and sailed to Harlaw in the Iron Islands to raise her supporters as Queen of the Iron Islands. Her uncle Roderick Harlaw said she didn't have the support and she should steer clear of the kingsmoot. She couldn't win, and he feared her uncle Euron would kill his competition. While there, she ran into Tris Botley, childhood lover. He was still in love, but she considered it puppy love. Since then, she attended the kingsmoot, threw her hat in as queen, promised western sections of the north, and received decent support. However, her uncle Euron promised dragons and all of Westeros and carried the day. She's been AWOL ever since. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
Well, I think we should. Asha Greyjoy sits in the long hall of Deepwood Motte, drinking Galbert Glover's wine when the letter arrives from Barrowtown. It was sealed with pink wax, and Asha knows that means House Bolton. Dark wings, dark words, she thinks as she breaks the seal. The words were penned in dry brown ink. Moat Cailin has fallen. It was signed in black ink by Ramsay Bolton, Lord of Winterfell, along with signatures from houses Dustin, Serwyn, Risewell, and Umber.
The letter continues that it was written in the blood of the ironborn and ended with, "I send you a piece of prince. Linger in my lands and share his fate." A scrape of skin accompanied the letter. Asha had thought that her brother was dead.
Asha allows the maester to share the news with Lady Sybil. Maybe it'll give her joy. If word from the Red Wedding was accurate, her husband Robert and good brother Galbert were never to ride home again. Sybil's children were a different matter. They were safe thanks to Asha. The children had been left at 10 Towers in the care of Asha's aunts. Asha considered the stormy crossing back to the mainland to be too difficult for the infant girl Irena.
Tris Botley weighs in that if Moat Cailin has fallen, Torrance Square will be next, followed by Deepwood Motte. Asha realises the Ironborn in the north are on their own. Euron is busy chasing dragons. Dagmar Cleftjaw will not fold easily at Torrance Square and won't go alive. Some around her want to join the impending fight at Torrance Square, and Asha realises her men have given up on victory. Now all they wish for is a good death.
Asha leaves the men to their feasting to return to her chambers. She considers her men brave fools for wanting to fight at Torrance Square. She has 4 longships and less than 200 men, And that includes Tris, who Asha feels can't be relied upon to rush to Torrent Square and die alongside the Cleftjaw.
Asha finds she isn't alone. Qarl the Maid has followed her up the steps. She tells him to get out, and he tries to kiss her. She threatens to kill him, but Qarl slashes the laces on her jerkin and pushes Asha to the bed, ignoring her continued death threats.
Later, Asha recalls her and Qarl's early days together 6 or 7 years ago, sailing along the coast of Westeros, exploring the lands and each other. She'd marry Qarl if she could. She appreciates pretty much everything about him, but his station is too low. This time, it's her who initiates the sex. When they finish the second time, she lets Qarl sleep and makes her way to the kitchens.
On her way, she ruminates on many topics. She considers Stannis. He is wooing the same northern lords the ironborn has sacked. That inherently makes her and him poor bedfellows. She expects the Boltons to take the castle from her, but she will not go alive. She recalls her last moments on the Iron Islands. Her uncle Roderick urged her to flee after the kingsmoot. Asha meant to fight then, but Roderick pointed out the kingsmoot is official. Euron won. There is no fighting it.
She was at 10 Towers saying goodbye to her mother when she got the news. Her uncle, King Euron, wed her to ancient Eric Ironmaker to tame her, using a seal as a stand-in for the bride. Eric is now ruling the Iron Islands in Euron's absence, so she can't go home, but her days are numbered in Deepwood Motte as well. Tris finds her eating cheese and professes his undying love. She appreciates all that he's done for her, but responds that she does not love him.
Tris asks her to sail away with him. They could be merchants and make a fortune. Asha proposes a trio of her, him and Qarl. Tris bristles. She suggests she might live at Sea Dragon Point and rule there. Tris points out the many flaws in that plan, and she concedes. Returning home might be her best bet. She can team up with her uncle Aeron to stand against Euron's rule. Tris thinks that Damphair is dead, that Euron killed him after the kingsmoot. Tris reiterates Roderick's words. Asha and Aeron were part of the kingsmoot, so they cannot claim it was unlawful.
Tris compares it to Torgon the Latecomer, who was the rightful heir, but was reaving when his father died and wasn't part of the kingsmoot. When he returned, he claimed that the kingsmoot was unlawful since he wasn't present. The existing king was killed, and Torgon ruled for 40 years. Asha's mood is suddenly buoyed. She kisses Tris right on the lips. She should have remembered is all she gets out before a war horn blows.
Asha and Tris find 2 Northmen in the yard, one dead, one dying. 3 other Northmen were also killed. Asha twists the spear, pinning the dying man to the ground until he admits there are 3,000 others coming at his heels. Asha wants Lady Sybil and the Maester summoned. Sybil urges Asha to submit. Asha will be spared. She treated them well. Sybil will trade her for Sybil's children. Asha leaves it to a vote, and all the Ironborn vote for battle.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. They leave through the south gate as a ram batters the northern gate, making their way to their longships. The force camps in the woods for the night. Asha is fantasizing about one last rendezvous with Qarl, when a head of an Ironborn scout lands in the camp. The Ironborn prepare for battle as the Northmen rush in. The Ironborn fight hard but are heavily outnumbered. Asha's last foe ultimately defeats her, and as she prepares for the finishing blow, she hears trumpets. Her last thoughts were of burning red hearts and a black stag in a golden wood. Huh, that sounds familiar.
You did well on the summary, I thought, Mackelly, because that was a really long chapter.
It was almost 20 pages on my, my digital book.
Yeah, it was a hefty one.
Yeah.
And if this is goodbye to Asha, and it's not clear that it was goodbye to Asha, it felt like she took a blow that could have killed her, but the the chapter didn't end right there with like a ... So I figure from her POV, she's still just about alive. If it is her last chapter, though, she will be missed because she was a voice of reason in the Iron Islands. She wasn't opposed to their historical traditions, but she was aware of the sort of real politic of the modern world and how you had to compromise Euron's excesses and Victarians, to be honest, with the ability to live amongst your fellow Westerosi.
Very true.
But she was already out of power anyway, so I mean, it really won't make much difference. But you kind of hoped there was a better day coming for the Iron Islanders. Someone like Asha could take over.
Yeah, she would have made a great queen. I really do feel that is true.
Yeah,
but
she wouldn't have made a great queen for the Seven Kingdoms.
No, but she would
too
have made
violent, too acquisitive, but good for the Iron Islands.
Yes, even if she were just Lady of Pike, like her father was the Lord of Pike before he named himself King Balon.
Yeah.
Even if she bent the knee to Stannis or the Iron Throne or whomever,
Yeah. Of course, if Stannis wins, if imagine if she'd won the kingsmoot and claimed herself as Queen of the Iron Islands, with the intention of submitting to whoever won the Battle of the Five Armies and took over the Iron Throne.
Right.
Stannis wouldn't have forgiven her. He would have executed her for ever claiming to have been queen. That
is true. She would have had to have submitted to him before he sat the throne.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think he would have forgiven her if she had won and then sent him a letter and said, "I pledge my fealty."
Right.
Maybe
so. Yeah. That's true. I did admire a trick that George Martin pulled in this chapter. I'm sure you noticed it too. That to sort of reinforce her alien invader status, he references every object and every room and every aspect of Deepwood Motte as being Galbert Glover's bedroom, Galbert Glover's cup. He does it three times in the first paragraph, but then he does it throughout. It's always Galbert Glover's maester, and
Galbert Glover's dogs.
Everything. Yes.
I think it also is trying to show that she doesn't feel at home outside of the Iron Islands.
Right. And I'm sure, I didn't look back on it, but I'm sure the Theon chapters where he was in charge of Winterfell, he wasn't calling them Ned Stark's towers, Ned Stark's.
Yeah. I can't recall, but he might have been feeling that way about Ned Stark's bedchambers because he grew up there, and Ned and Catelyn were, they were the lord and lady of the castle. But you're right, he's different because he was raised on the mainland. So yeah.
So the bird with the letter from Ramsay comes from Barrowtown, and can you remind me where Barrowtown is? I mean, presumably it came from Ramsay. It was signed as if it came from Ramsay,
right?
And so Barrowtown, I'm guessing, is just north of the Neck.
A bit north, yeah. It's one of the more northern towns.
But logically, they're on their way to Winterfell. That party.
Right now, they seem to be in Barrowtown. Whether they will head to, I mean, Ramsay calls himself Lord of Winterfell, so
right.
he's likely going to make his way to Winterfell at some point.
Right.
But the problem is Winterfell, by his own hand, has been sacked, and it's still a huge castle, not made of wood like this one. So, but it's in disrepair, I guess. So.
It's not great news for the Ironborn, or indeed for Stannis Baratheon, how many Northern Lords co-signed that letter.
Right, yes.
But every time this happens, and you think, well, the Boltons have won kind of thing, you can't help but think there's a bit of duress. I mean, you're signing a letter that's been written in blood, and it has been enclosed with the skinned finger of
your
Prince
brother
of the Iron Islands. Are you going to say, I want no part of this? Find out how that goes for you.
Yeah, they're in Barrowtown, and the Dustins have backed Roose Bolton. Lady Barbary, Dustin, is the sister of Roose's first wife. So John had mentioned in the last John chapter that, yes, the Risewells and the Dustons have both sided with Roose, but they have marital bonds that,
right.
Kind of not only force them to, but also what are they supposed to do,
Right, yes.
So, and Asha,
eventually power will convince everyone to bend,
right. Yes.
apart from Stannis, apparently.
But Asha wonders who rules in Barrowtown and figures it doesn't matter, it's no friend of mine, but ironically, it's Barbary Dustin, another rare woman ruler, who rules after her husband Willem died. But that's slightly becoming less rare here in the north because House Serwyn is also ruled by Janelle Serwyn, who is the daughter of Medgar, who died as a prisoner in Harrenhal. Medgar was the northern lord that Arya was hoping to get a moment with to ask for help from, but he ended up dying. And then his son Clay became lord, but he died in the Bolton treachery at Winterfell, so his sister Janelle is now ruling there.
Is Sybil Glover in line to take over at Deepwood Motte?
That is complicated.
Oh.
The head of House Glover, the lord of Deepwood Motte, they call him Master at Deepwood Motte, is Galbert Glover.
Right.
Her husband,
owner
is
of
Robert
dogs, cups, bedrooms.
Yes, of all the stuff, yes. But he is not Sybil's husband. He is Sybil's good brother. Sybil's husband is Robert Glover.
Yes.
And Robert Glover, so it depends on which book you look at. If you look at I think it's Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords, in the appendix, it says that Robert is Galbert's heir. But if you look at Feast for Crows or Dance with Dragons appendix, it says that Robert's son Gawain is Galbert's heir. So
Sybil's child.
Yes.
Oh, is that because there's an assumption in those two books that Robert is dead?
Well, you might have thought that, but we just met him. Well, we didn't meet him in the last I think it was 2 Davos chapters ago. Davos learned that Robert Glover was in White Harbor trying to raise an army.
So he didn't die.
Right. Now, Asha thinks he's dead, and I think Sybil probably thinks he's dead.
And the appendices think he's dead.
Yes. Someone needs to inform the appendices. He's in White Harbor. Unless that could be fake news. That might be a rumor that has been going around. So
okay. But also, you missed the Mormonts. Aren't the Mormonts led by a woman as well? The North has become a matriarchy.
Yes, you're right. Mage, and now, I guess Mage is still, she didn't die in the Red Wedding either, so.
Right. There's a sort of like a general, there's a part in this chapter where a real sort of like depression descends on Asha, which is basically after she receives this letter. She seems defeated by the news of Theon, which is kind of both good and bad because she thought Theon was dead. But now she's got physical evidence that until recently he was alive, I'm guessing, one would infer.
Right.
But the letter seems to sort of like take the wind out of her sails because she doesn't care whether Sybil Glover hears of this letter, which is the kind of news you might not give to a prisoner.
Right.
Hey,
yes.
The people imprisoning you are about to get slaughtered and you're going to get freed.
Right.
And here's some porridge that I spat in,
Yeah. Well, first off, I liked the imagery in that letter. She read the dry brown words and her black mood grew blacker still.
Yeah.
It fits well with the future imagery later in the chapter about the bare trees surrounding Deepwood Motte that she kind of hates, the rustling of the trees. But then we find out that the brown ink is at least according to who appears to be Ramsay, it's actually the dried blood of Ironborn that he wrote this letter in.
Any other author, I would say it's hyperbole. Ramsay, for sure, it's Ironborn blood. Absolutely guaranteed.
We were there. We know he flayed every one of those Ironborn and Mackelly.
Well, I'm not going to waste ink while I got these guys bleeding right here.
But yeah, so she realizes Theon's not dead and that he's captive and being flayed by the Boltons. And I know she's got her own issues. I mean, she realizes she is in quite a situation here. But at that moment, there's no initial thought of, my brother's still alive, I need to free him, or how can I help my brother? She thinks to herself, I thought he was dead. This is a fate worse than death.
Yeah. And then that depression seems to permeate to the men as well, because she talks then about the fact that the men have clearly given up any hope of survival or success here. They're just hoping for a good death where their spirit can follow the waterways back to the sea. That's all they're hoping for at this point. So definitely gloom has descended on the Ironborn here at Deepwood Motte. I'll tell you the thing I was going to mention about my memory. I've remembered.
Oh, that's good. I was concerned. I should have written it down.
I've been reading this particular book on Kindle. I've got the ebook of this, and I've learned how to use the Kindle app, and I've actually started taking sort of notes on things. And I highlighted, without putting a note, the sentence where she burns the piece of skin. The piece of skin that's included. She burns that in a candle. I can't for the life of me remember why I did it.
You had some really deep insight here, and now you've forgotten it.
Yeah, I mean, I found it as I reread it, and I was like, we've just been watching Yellow Jackets. I don't know if you've seen that show.
Oh, yeah. I think I watched like the first season and a half before we lost Showtime. Yeah. We had it for a while, and then we lost it.
That's pretty grim, and I feel like there might be some association there, but honestly, I got nothing. I was like, why did I highlight that sentence?
Well, maybe it'll come back to you as we go. Yeah, who knows?
One of these days.
But speaking of that, he writes in the letter, I send you each a piece of prints. And it made me wonder, who else got a letter? Maybe he sent it to Pike.
That would be my assumption, yeah. Oh, perhaps also to Torrens Square.
Oh, yes. That makes a lot of sense, because there's an Ironborn holdout there, and his next line is, linger in my lands and you'll share the same fate.
Right, yeah. But Pike makes sense as well. When you said it, I was like, that's a good idea, because whoever's in charge in Pike could call them home,
Yes, right, yeah. I did wonder, though, is this skin newly taken or is it an old piece? Because last we saw Theon / Reek, things seem to be improving a bit especially after he was successful in Moat Cailin. We did concern, though, about Roos's reaction to Theon, with him knowing that Theon knows it's Jane and not Arya.
Right. Yeah. But I can't imagine Roose going the route of let's take another finger. Let's take skin off another finger. Roose is going to go, let's take the simple route of slitting that throat that might otherwise spill the beans.
Let's take head off shoulders, something more permanent like that.
Maybe this is a Ramsay trick. He was flaying a lot of Ironborn. Just say it's Theon's, just to let them know you've got Theon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very possible. But I felt like it was so Stannis-like to send a letter to Deepwood Motte and demand fealty from the Ironborn, who are in open rebellion against everybody. Just they should bend the knee to me because I'm the rightful king.
Well, the one thing is, if Ramsay Bolton is coming with the intent of slaughtering you all, maybe it's a good idea. I'll hold Deepwood Motte for you, King Stannis.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yes, you're right. We knew that this was part of the plan for Stannis to go into the Northern Mountains, woo the Northern Mountain clans, and then take Deepwood Motte. Yeah. That was what Jon suggested over attacking the Dreadfort. So it's possible he thought, well, maybe, let's say Stannis knows that Moat Cailin has fallen. If he does, then he might assume that Asha in Deepwood Motte would know as well and think she has no choice now but to die or to pledge her fealty to me, and maybe I will help her. We can join forces.
Right, that is interesting actually, because of course she's bitterly disappointed and thinks the kingsmoot was unfair, and so perhaps an alliance where you say, you know what, I can't bring many of the Islanders over to you, but I can bring all the ones I've got, and in return you ensconce me as the Lady of Pike.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's a little bit of help against the Boltons. Yeah,
and she probably could convince Dagmar Cleftjaw to join her as well.
The same thing. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it could work. She partially rightly blames Euron for the fall of Moat Cailin. His interests lay elsewhere. But I will point the finger at Victarion a little bit. It was Victarion's men he left there. He could have done something. Now, he was under orders from Euron. He couldn't do what Tris Botley did, which was just lag behind as the fleet crossed the sea and then sail off to Deepwood Motte. But he could have sent...
That would be tough, yeah.
He could have sent messages to Moat Cailin to say, help's not coming, feel free to abandon post.
Right. That's... Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what the time gap was between the kingsmoot and them sailing out. But you'd think he knew he was leaving those men there. He knew who he left behind. Now, Theon pointed out that the men he left behind were kind of the lower stature, men. But still, he was leaving them to a terrible fate. So.
Yeah.
But I think Dagmar Cleftjaw is in a bit of a worse pickle than those in Deepwood Motte because, like we were talking about earlier, Torrhen Square is half the distance closer to Barrowtown than Deepwood Motte is, but it's also, I wouldn't say it's a harder nut to crack than Moat Cailin if you're coming from the south, because apparently that's impossible to do, but it's not likely full of starving and dying men who are just desperate to get out of there. So,
and the other thing I'll say about it is, if you've got an escape route, Moat Cailin, if you get attacked from north and south, you're in big trouble.
Yes.
And that's what happened to Moat Cailin. They were attacked from both directions. And
there's nowhere to go. Yeah.
I mean, they'd already caved by then, but, they would have lost anyway.
Right.
I think that Qarl and Asha need a safe word because their lovemaking was extremely rough.
Yeah. It was very confusing. And I struggled with how to write it in the summary. How much description to give.
You did the right thing. Less is better in this case.
Okay,
let them read it and make their own judgment. But you definitely need a safe word. Because what if she really didn't want to?
Right.
She said repeatedly, I don't want to. I'll kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very confusing. At first, it 100% seemed that she was being forcibly taken by Qarl. And it was quite the violent scene. Fighting him off harshly, him strongly coercing her, and then it was unclear if it was some kind of game that they play. And, then we get the description of that they've been lovers for 6 to 7 years, despite, Tris Botley's professed love and elevated status. She wishes she could marry Qarl if he was of a higher station. Yeah. So it seems like she loves him, but it was I felt unclear the whole time whether she was being coerced or if this was some sort of game that they play. So yes, a safe word might have been a good idea.
Yeah. That's what they need for sure. And one thing that was kind of sad about their relationship was that Qarl is called Qarl the Maid because he can't grow a beard,
right?
Which is unusual for the Iron Islanders. I feel like they're all beardy, great big hairy beasts. And he got laughed at for having peach fuzz, but he'd never seen a peach when he got laughed at for having peach fuzz. And she took him to Old Town 6 or 7 years ago where they were able to buy some peaches and compare with his face and laugh about it and then taste the delicious peaches. But she realizes that's the last time she ate a peach and she hasn't eaten one since. That's pretty rough. Peaches are good. I'd miss peaches.
Yeah, I maintain that a perfectly ripe peach is one of the best tastes that you can have.
That's a good call. That's hard to beat.
Fantastic. It is hard to beat. I love a perfectly ripe peach. It's hard to tell sometimes. You could get it slightly on the not ripe enough and slightly too ripe. Yeah. If you catch it perfect, there's nothing better.
Yeah. And presumably the chances of ripe peaches are less and less as the winter comes on, and so it's going to be many more years before they get any. So just made me sort of wistful for them that they're going to miss out on that.
Yeah.
So Deepwood Motte is 5 leagues from the sea, and the ironborn are just a little bit concerned that that's too far for them to get their spirits back to the water, which is one of the reasons that Asha thinks that retreating to the longships is a good idea, I think, because one thing she says at one point is that the ironborn fight better with the smell of salt water in their lungs.
Right.
So the decision to flee, it's funny because they vote and decide to fight, and their fighting consists of like, all right, we're going to head out of here as fast as we possibly can. And
I thought that too.
They only get caught really because one of the horses trips and breaks a leg, and so they decide to camp for the night rather than risk any more injuries. So
yeah. I guess what they were doing was voting whether to submit there and then or to fight, but their fighting consisted of fleeing.
Yeah.
So it was either submit or fight/flee.
Yeah. She said that when they arrived they had 30 ships, but now she's down to just 4. She kind of she flip-flops on this because at first she thinks that she blames the others for having fled, but then she recognizes the fact that they were just obeying their duty to their new king who told them he wanted them. So she sort of gets angry and then forgives them all in the same breath. But that means that they only just have enough ships to evacuate them all if they did make it to the...
Right. She says she has 4, but that includes her own ship and Tris Botley's ship.
Yeah.
Which means she's really got 2 other ships not one of those 2 ships.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And as we said, Tris Botley was able to rejoin her by joining the fleet that was crossing from the Iron Islands towards the Reach with Euron and Victarion, and then just limping along slowly behind, and then as soon as they were out of sight, flying off to the north.
Yeah. I feel for Tris because he's in a tough spot. He might be in equally as tough spot as Asha, because he has now turned his back on the Iron Islands.
Well, that's true.
By disappearing, but he's also gone to the aid of a woman that he loves, who makes it very clear that she does not love him.
The best offer he got from her was a thruple with Qarl.
Right.
And from what we read earlier, he's going to be the one on the outs at bedtime.
Yeah. So, I feel for him because if I were him, I would be thinking, well, what do I do now? I guess I'd just stay by her side even though she loves another man, because I've already turned my back on my homeland.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where you can imagine in battle, Qarl or Tris, probably Tris, might accidentally kill the other one.
Oh, right. Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a friend. I thought that was foe. My bad.
Yeah. So Asha fled the kingsmoot at the urging of her uncle. What's her uncle's name? I've forgotten. Roderick, her uncle Roderick, who's known as the Reader. Yeah. And he was convinced that Euron would kill her to cement his claim, which is interesting to me because obviously there's a degree of reverence for the kingsmoot, which she doesn't think she can overrule it. So therefore, Euron has nothing to worry about. But everyone believes that Euron has enough to worry about to kill everyone who's his rival. But he didn't kill Victarion.
No, but I guess part of the problem with Asha is that her claim is stronger than Euron's, whereas Victarion is his younger brother, so his claim is weaker.
That's true.
I think that's where the issue lies. And she was shamed by the action of fleeing, but it very well may have saved her life. Except for now she's in what we were just discussing with Tris Botley is, where does she go from here? The North is a ticking time bomb now that Roose is loose. She can't go home again. Well, she probably could if she stayed in 10 Towers, but she's too proud to hide in 10 Towers incognito for the rest of her life.
She could go back to Pike and be the Lady of Pike with her new husband. I mean, it doesn't sound very tempting, but...
No, I don't... Yeah, she does ponder it, like what would life be like as his wife, but I don't... I think that'd be a low percentage chance of, one, she doesn't love him or care for him much at all. She also insulted him and embarrassed him at the kingsmoot when she said, stand up, and I'll shout your name, and he wasn't able to. So he might be holding a grudge there, you know?
Yeah. But you know what? Accidents can happen to young bridegrooms when their murderous bride comes back from her pillaging.
Yeah. Oh,
which would leave her in charge with a very great chance that Euron and Victarion never come back.
Yeah, she does think about that too, and she thinks that could be better or worse being his widow, depending on his grandsons and how they react.
Yeah.
But Tris suggests making for open water and becoming, mercenaries or traders in Essos. His thought is traders in Essos. Her thought is pirates. That's not a terrible idea. They could be a mercenary fleet or a trading fleet or, something like that.
Yeah,
I'm sure they could do
they're
well.
expert sailors. I mean, that's the one thing they definitely are.
I think that of the options, if she is willing to swallow her pride, that might be the best option she could choose. But I
suspect she isn't.
No.
So you made a good point that her life was more threatened because she had the greater claim. But Tris thinks that Aeron, Damphair Greyjoy, was murdered by Euron, and that's why he's not been seen since the kingsmoot. And Aeron was younger than Euron, so he didn't have a greater claim. But so that would certainly reinforce Roderick's belief that Asha's life was in danger. And at the same time, it would sort of undermine he's only going to kill the ones who've got a greater claim.
Right, that's true. I think Aeron's different, though. He doesn't have a claim because he's a priest. I think his danger is the fact that he's what he thinks and says is so powerful on the Iron Islands.
Yeah.
Because he's the highest priest of the drowned god.
But the thing is, he is hoisted by his own petard because he called the kingsmoot. And to call the kingsmoot and then to denounce the winner of the kingsmoot just feels like...
That is true. Uh-huh. I follow what you mean there. Absolutely.
Yeah. But we don't know whether or not he's dead, but Tris certainly thinks that happened to him. But Tris gives the sort of like most interesting talking point in this chapter, perhaps, is Tris's story of Torgon the Latecomer, who missed the kingsmoot that should have elected him to be king of the Iron Islands because no one invited him. He was out grieving when his father died and his brothers usurped the throne. And that kingsmoot was overthrown violently.
Right. Yeah.
But when it was overthrown violently, it was all agreed that the right outcome had been reached, and Torgon actually ruled for many years after he got the throne back. And this is when she kisses Tris on the lips. And so my assumption, I don't know if you have the same assumption, is she's thinking of Theon.
Yeah.
In this chapter, she learned that Theon was alive, or at least very recently alive, and now she's got this, wait a minute, he wasn't invited to the kingsmoot, and he had the best claim. So do you see it the same way?
I do, yes. Yeah. I think there's several similarities here. Uragon Goodbrother and Euron have some similarities. Yeah. They, in both situations, the king dies and all expect someone else to be named in the kingsmoot, and then they're chosen. They were both opposed by the drowned god priests. Uragon put the rivals to death. We're certainly hearing rumors anyway that Euron might be doing or planning to do the same thing. And they started calling Uragon Goodbrother Bad Brother because he actually was a pretty ruthless, awful king.
Right.
And many might consider Euron to be a bad brother. So, there's similarities there. But yes, absolutely. We never get to hear what she's thinking because the war horn blows right as she says I should have remembered. But we know in this chapter, she learned that Theon is possibly alive because of the skin. Now, the idea, remember earlier I said, she thought, oh, my brother might be alive. I thought he was dead. This is a fate worse than death. And then didn't really think, well, maybe I should try and rescue or ransom him or something. Well, now she starts thinking along the lines of, maybe I should try and rescue or ransom him. Yeah. We don't get that thought, but I think that's what she's thinking. If I can get Theon back, know.
So the war horn sounds, and she calls for the Maester, Galbert Glover's Maester, and Lady Sybil to be brought out, and they argue that she should surrender, that Sybil would exchange Asha for Sybil's own children. Reasonable swap. But Asha, to her credit, she rejects this idea because she knows that the ironborn, the lowborn men who work for her, would not be given this same. No one could ransom them, so they'd be put to death or sent to the wall. That's all they would get. So, she doesn't follow through on that. Absent that, it would have been kind of tempting, because...
Yeah, she would have been sent back to her husband, Eric Ironmaker, and there's a gamble there. He might have her killed. He might have instructions to have her killed.
But maybe what you do is you say, okay, let's do that exchange. I will actually take you on my longship to get the kids. And then she goes to the 10 Towers instead of Pike.
Yeah. That could be. That might have worked. But you're right. She didn't, because it would be her, Tris, her cousins, and that maybe a handful others, and the rest would be killed. Yeah. So, she made a selfless decision, but I think it was the one she would have made regardless.
Yeah. The attack of the Northmen here is sort of reminiscent of Macbeth. I've referenced Macbeth many times because it's my favourite Shakespeare play. But the line from Macbeth is that Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great Burnham Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him. And basically, it was the soldiers used tree limbs and leaves to sneak up on the castle, and that's basically what the Northmen are doing here. So
yes, I see where you're making the connection there. I like that. That's
actually
very poetic.
Enough, my current book on tape is a book called Bark Skins by Annie Proulx, who wrote the Shipping News.
Is it actually on tape? Are you listening to it on cassette?
I'm listening to it on a cassette. Yeah, I put my pencil in and tighten it up.
Right. I figured that must be what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. And today, as I was driving home, they were talking about Native Americans, well, Native Canadians, in fact, were fishing on the sea, and they were attacked by an orca.
Oh.
And they were inexperienced at fishing on the sea. They were used to fishing on rivers, and one of the elders told them that they had to put tree limbs off the side of the boat because the orcas could smell the foliage and they would think that it was land and that they were too close to land and they would veer away because they didn't want to ground themselves.
Did that work?
Well, the guys who survived the attack by the orca did not go back in the sea, but made a mental note if they were to go back.
If I do it again,
tree limbs off the side of the boat.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
but as far as this battle goes, I kind of question the Northmen's tactics a little bit. So what they do is Asha sends 2 scouts off to look for Northmen. If they see them, they're supposed to come back and tell Asha that where the Northmen are. But that doesn't happen. They stop for the night, and then a head, who happens to be Rolf's head, comes flying into the middle of the camp, and then the Ironborn all grab their gear and prepare for a fight, and then the Northmen rush in. And I thought, first of all, why announce your presence by throwing the head in and giving up the element of surprise? And why rush in? Why not arrows from the darkness, an initial, arrows from the darkness to thin the ranks a bit? We know they have them because Hagen was killed by an arrow
Right.
The guy who was blowing the horn was killed by an arrow, so someone's got some arrows.
I'll give you full marks for the second of those 2 points. The arrows, yes, I agree with that. But the first one, there is the impact of hurling a friend's head into the middle of the group. Yes, it will alert them. It's hard not to notice. But at the same time, it might unman them somewhat.
Yeah, maybe. It just gave them time. The description said they saw the head and ran for their gear. Yeah. And I thought they wouldn't have had time to run for the gear.
Yeah,
if
you're right. It's not the greatest tactic. I mean, literally at that point, if you can get close enough where you can hurl a head into the middle of them, then you've got them surrounded, and you could just pick them all off.
Yeah, at least an initial array of a flight of arrows, because they have more men. Yes, they were outnumbered, the 200 to 3,000, if the numbers are what we're hearing in this chapter are accurate. But the Northmen are less armored. It's furs versus chainmail. Yeah. And Grimtongue, he's counting out the men he's killing. He's at a 9-to-1 ratio before the last we hear of Grimtongue. We don't know how many more he killed or if or when he died, but he had killed 9-to-1 ratio. With odds like that, Stannis' 3,000 fighting force is not quite as formidable as you would think. So, it just seems like they lost a lot of good men that they're going to need for the fight against the Boltons. Yeah. So that was my thought about it.
Can I ask you what happened to Sybil Glover? Because did she just get left behind? Like they went. Yeah.
They didn't bring. There's no mention of bring Lady Sybil with us. So as far as we hear, she's left behind.
Yeah. I guess what do you do with a hostage if you're fleeing? I mean, they've already got her kids, so they can still, exchange whatever for that. But I guess you just leave them behind. I thought the battle scene was, whilst mistakes were made, the scene itself was well crafted. You do get a sense of the exhaustion that must pervade. I mean, obviously Grimtongue, he can keep going all night, but the rest of us would find it. I mean, you imagine whacking away with a sword a few times until you've actually killed a person. That would be me done. I would be like, all right, I need a couple of days now. But they're going to keep coming. There's 3,000 of them. You'd be doing this for hours on end, and it would be something else.
And we get her POV, and so in her mind, she's telling us how exhausted she's becoming and how heavy her axes and the sword that she randomly got that she doesn't know how she got and her shield were becoming.
Explain the end of the chapter to me, Mackelly, because I didn't really understand it. A war horn sounds just before she gets decapitated, and so you can't tell by the sound of the war horn who's sounding it, but as she sort of like drifts into unconsciousness, she sees imagery of Stannis Baratheon, it seems. Golden stags.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. What isn't clear is why I think it was a trumpet, which maybe is a southern thing more than a war horn, which might, because she heard trumpets earlier and thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Why would the wolves be blaring trumpets?
Oh, interesting.
So that could be more of a chivalry, southern thing than
be funny. It'd be funny if Stannis had a little ditty that was announced.
A little band. That would be...
I like it.
So did he have the trumpets blown because he wanted Asha alive and he saw the battle was done and that Asha was about to be killed?
Or, you make a good point, he wanted more of them alive because he wants them to bend the knee and join him, Like, the battle had tipped and was clearly going to go one way. Let's stop it now, give them the chance to join us,
Yeah. Right. Maybe he wanted Asha as, Asha's the daughter of Balon Greyjoy. Maybe he wanted her alive because she is kind of a prize. She's a good captive to have versus her being dead.
Yeah.
But she dreams of that fiery black heart and the black stag on gold that you mentioned. And it's not really until that moment that it's confirmed that it's Stannis and his force. and not the Boltons. Now, we know that Northmen are wearing furs, and most of the non-Northern Mountain Clan Northmen would be wearing armor. You know, if they were coming, if they were coming from the Boltons, they probably would have been wearing armor than furs. But you can't guarantee that. Maybe they've lost a lot of people, so maybe they're down to just people who are wearing furs. But that kind of attack, that style, is not really Ramsay's style, but Asha doesn't know that. We know that. We've seen him do it multiple times where he uses subterfuge and deception to attack a foe. Likely he would have sent Reek in again to extract them under false promises, although the letter penned in ironborn blood make that harder than it was the first time in Mackelly.
True.
But anyway, once we see those images, then we know, this is Stannis.
You sense Stannis' fingerprints all over this now when you think about it. I mean, he said, we could take them unawares, but what we're going to do is we're going to send 5 guys over the walls to alert them to our presence and give them some good intel that they can share before they're killed. Right. And then just before we could attack them and kill them all in a heartbeat, we're going to throw a head into the middle of the thing, get them all up and out of it. Yeah. Right. Very Stannis.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. How about some spoilers? Join us at the upper tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee sustainer levels and you can get the spoilers. All right, thank you for the spoilers. How about some background?
Well, Asha tells us that her husband, Eric Ironmaker, was once a roaring giant, a powerful fighter and famed reaver, and that in his youth, he sailed with Dagon Greyjoy. The way it's conveyed makes that statement sound impactful. So, who is Dagon Greyjoy? Well, first off, he's Asha's great-great-grandfather. We don't know exactly how long he was Lord of the Iron Islands, but we know that it overlapped with the reign of King Aerys I. Dagon was known as the Last Reaver, and he seemed to live up to the moniker. He reaved up and down the western coast of Westeros, burning towns, plundering wealth, carrying off more than 100 women. But he didn't stop there. He also raided the north, to the point where Lord Baron Stark raised swords to deal with Dagon and his reavers. However, the Ironborn always seem to retreat to the sea before any northern force can engage them. The Lannisters were equally plagued by Dagon and his Ironborn and began to build a fleet to stop them. However, it was ultimately the Targaryens who brought an end to Dagon in his troublemaking, and I wondered how many lords were heard to have said that Dagon.
I was totally going to steal that joke. I was plotting it. I was like, when he finishes this, I'm going to say, those Dagon Reavers.
That's what happens when we're 298 episodes in. We share the same mind. Some behind-the-scenes info that was provided on a wiki of Ice and Fire is that it's possible that Dagon's name is a reference to the sea god Dagon from H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, which in turn is inspired by the Levantine deity named Dagon.
Oh, very nice. Very good.
There you go.
Comparison with the television show, I mean, Asha's story, the fact that she changes her name to Yara is just the tip of the iceberg for how massively her story deviates. She's way different. The timeline is shifted enormously, and her story is just all over the place. I was looking it up today to see, did she ever have a battle with the Northmen? I was like, no, by this point she was in Essos. I was like, what the hell did that happen?
She took Tris up on his offer to become a merchant.
Yeah. So really nothing to compare. This is very, very different.
Yeah.
Pedantry Corner. I've started to use Pedantry Corner for more than just pedantry that we find in the books. I'm going to use pedantry against myself here because last week, and it's not Jenny's fault. This is all me. Yeah. Typically what happens during the recording of the podcast is Simon will say something deeply stupid that
not true.
Clearly he's forgotten the book that he's reading. He's got it mixed up with the book about native Canadians.
Right.
And he just mangles something. And Mackelly salvages the situation. He's like, it's a good point you're making, Simon, except, and then he'll fill in the things that I've missed. Now, poor Jenny doesn't know she has to deal with this garbage, and she believed me when I said that the Windblown were going to go and fight the Yunkai-ish. And I promise, the edit was very difficult because she tried to rack her brains around this statement for the longest time. But eventually she sort of gave up. So we just left it in the podcast. But it isn't true. They weren't going to fight the Yunkai-ish. They were being paid by the Yunkai-ish. So right, yes. I apologize to the listeners, and I apologize to Jenny for putting her in that situation. What a mess. I'm sorry.
ASOS is confusing. It's understandable. Yeah. There are groups everywhere, and they all have names that nobody can pronounce. And so, I was listening to it, and I was thinking, why are they talking about Yunkai being on Dany's side in the Windblown fighting? But it happens. It happens. It's all good.
All right. News and notes. I'm looking at the news and notes, and I see question marks. I see questions, not answers.
We're getting really. This is episode 298. I don't know that we are going to get anything planned for our 300th. Our apologies. We've dropped the ball there. We've got our 6th year coming up in October, so maybe
let's do something for that instead. Gives us an extra 10 weeks to sort it out.
Right.
We'll give ourselves a high five on episode 300. Don't get me wrong.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we'll mention it. It'll come up in that episode.
That sounds good. We got a review from Tony Corpse FUCC on Apple Podcasts, which is called A Song of Ice and Fire, but with more fun, which I like that very much.
I do. That's what we try.
This podcast is so much fun. I'm a huge fan of the series, but I can't convince my fiancé or friends to read it, and thus I have no one to talk to about it, and this podcast almost fills that void. Tony Corpse, come talk to us on the Discord server. We can actually have that conversation.
Right, absolutely.
I started listening in June of 2025, and thanks to the long work days and menial tasks around the house, I've caught up to the start of A Dance with Dragons. I originally found the podcast on...
That's June of 2025 was a month ago.
Oh, wow. Do you think he means that?
That would be an incredible pace.
I mean, that's a clip right there.
Yeah. Well, continue. I apologize.
I originally found the podcast on YouTube. God, well done. Looking for a breakdown of my favorite released chapter, brand 3 of A Dance with Dragons.
Oh,
do you remember that?
That's coming up. Yeah, that's coming up.
Oh, it's coming up. Oh, it hasn't happened yet.
No, not yet.
Excellent. They didn't have that. We still don't, but they will soon, and I'm extremely excited to hear your takes. Oh, so we've got to work hard on that one now. Can't let the side down. I'll be a fan forever, but I refuse to monetarily support Simon until he figures out how to renounce his English citizenship. I hope that this podcast goes long enough to have to drop what they're doing to cover the Winds of Winter. That is an awesome review. Thank you, Tony. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. That was fun and funny and very well done. And we greatly appreciate it. And if you really have gotten all the way to A Dance with Dragons in a month, that is record-breaking speed.
Some going, yeah. All right, let's conclude this one. So, Asha gone? Maybe? Hopefully not. It seems a shame if she just had the revelation that she could legally usurp the throne from Euron in Theon's favour, if she could just survive the axe blow to the head and rescue Theon and get him back to the Iron Islands and convince everyone that this was a good idea.
That's all she has to do?
Yeah.
That's nothing. She can do that in one chapter. But do you think that Reek could rule? Do you think he could get the votes if there was a new kingsmoot?
Well, I think you have to go the non-kingsmoot route.
Yeah. I guess.
You have to say, look, the kingsmoot was illegal. I was the heir-apparent. There was no reason for a kingsmoot. The kingsmoot should never have happened. It was completely illegal. I'm going to kill everyone who tried to become, apart from Asha, obviously, who just brought me back.
Right.
She gets a pass.
Pardoned.
So that's how I think you do it, And again, the Iron Islands are ripe for conquest right this second because everyone's off.
That's right. Yeah, including the entire Iron Fleet.
Exactly.
So there's really just Eric Ironmaker. But Balon's dream of northern expansion, does appear to be officially dead. It was officially dead for a while, but now only Torrhen Square stands. But like Tris points out, their days are numbered too.
It's like a squid flapping around on the land in the baking sun. It's not going anywhere good.
But Asha's an example of why it was doomed to fail in the first place. The Ironborn are just not built to live so far inland. They hate it. They're not comfortable. They're not good horse riders. Now, Theon showed that you can adapt, but he was raised from a child, so it would take at least a generation for them to start to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So far away from the oceans and the seas, I should say.
True enough. She needs to sort out her love life if she does get better, but of course there is definitely a non-zero possibility that her love life became a bit simpler during that battle because Ironborn were being killed left and right. So
yes, she could be down to neither, or maybe just one of her lovers.
I got to say, the heart wants what the heart wants, but Tris seems like a nice guy.
He does. I really like Tris. He's a very unique Ironborn.
You see, that's the thing. You see, we're not Reavers. If we were Reavers, we'd be like, Qarl all the way.
He's a wimp. Yeah, Tris is a wimp.
That Tris. Always got his nose in a book.
Thinks things through way too much.
So we're just projecting is what's going on here.
It does appear that Stannis won over the mountain clans, though.
Apparently, I would say so. Unless he just arrived, unless they attacked Deepwood Motte without his interference, and he just arrived in the nick of time to save her. Like, I didn't want you to do that. Who are you?
It's possible, I guess, but if he did, they just stopped because they were like, "What was that noise?" We don't know yet how he won them over, if that's what happened. Possibly with this plan to free the North by removing the Ironborn invaders. They did lose a decent amount in this small skirmish, a decent amount of men, that is. But they did free a northern castle, so, good on them. That's
progress.
But based on the description, only the mountain clans were fighting in the battle. There was no mention of any war horses or knights in armor or anything. So
maybe they wanted to demonstrate to Stannis what they could do.
Yeah. Or maybe he said, "Hey, I need you guys to do something for me.
Yeah.
Show me how good you are."
He watched them hurl that head into the ring like, oh, God.
Now you just tipped them off. And so both of these events happened on the same day. The letter arrived to Asha and the attack on the castle. And I don't know if that means anything. I don't know what... I just noticed that was a fact, that both of these things happened on the same day.
I wonder if that might lead her to believe that it's Ramsay that's attacked her more than Stannis. I mean, if she wakes up from this, presumably she'll find out. But I wonder if all this while she was thinking it was Ramsay's Northmen that were attacking her.
It would make sense, because she would have had no idea that Stannis was trying to woo the northern mountain clans.
But at the same time, if the bird from Barrowtown took exactly as long as the army, it was not exactly flying.
They sent the bird from just outside the castle. All right, send it in.
A bird has arrived from Barrowtown. Well, actually, just a guy with a bird cage 20 yards away.
Bird cage. He had a bird on his arm, like
he shouted, Raven. "This is from Barrowtown." All right, enough of this frivolity. Next up, we're back to Essos to check in on Tyrion. Always fun. There's 3 ways you can help us out. You can leave us a positive review, as Tony Corp's FUCC did. We'll definitely read it out. We always enjoy reading those out. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. There you can join us at any of the various sustainer levels. There's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the always fascinating spoilers. You can make a donation at our website directly, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com. Come on, Tony, dig deep.
That's right. And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, first off, you can send us a text. A link is at the top of every episode show notes. Please just keep in mind that we have no means of responding, but we do enjoy reading them. I got one today that said, "Mackelly, there's no way that you can deny being the gabber on the show when last week's episode went 45 minutes.
The funny thing was, the recording was like an hour and 20. We had so many mistakes and technical difficulties. I was like, maybe we're actually going to be as long as we normally are, but no, not even close.
No. And I urge you to check us out on our social medias. You can follow us on Twitter @GhostHarrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.